Okay, hi guys. Welcome to this balance slash Kaamwork slash Safetywing slash Watson immigration law remote work panel. Remote work panel plus country on the internet plus gaming plus digital nomad plus there's a lot plus immigration. Okay, so we can start by I guess introductions. I'm Munly from Balance Gaming Network. So the idea behind Balance Gaming Network is we're not just gamers, but we're also people that have made something of ourselves or are looking to make us something of ourselves in real life. And so, instead of just gaming random people, why not game with people that you might have a real life connection with and, make that gaming time productive, and also optimize the time efficiency of that. So I guess we can go left to right. Tahmina, introduce yourself.
Well, hi, thank you so much for having me, Munly. I'm Tahmina Watson. I'm in Seattle, Washington, USA. I'm an immigration attorney at Watson Immigration Law, and I practice business immigration primarily. That's when people have work visas or people have, investing in a business here to get permission to work, so forth. But I do help families as well, spouses, children, parents, and citizenship. I don't go to court, but I do practically everything else.
How'd you get out of that? I was wondering. Yeah. So, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Sam. I'm the head of growth for Safetywing. We are focused on building the world's first social safety net. So essentially, you can think of some of these services that you would traditionally get out of your home national country, things like insurance, things like pension plans, whatnot. So we're focused on building that up so that anyone can access it no matter where they are and also get those services globally. So, if you have a global company and provide insurance for all of your employees that works around the globe, you can contribute to, in the future, a pension plan, whether you're an individual entrepreneur traveling around the world doing whatever you do for a career. So that's sort of what we're focused on right now. Our first two products were for digital nomads and remote workers, both in insurance, which has been very exciting with the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's a lot of my world right now, certainly.
Yep. Last one, Abhay.
Hey, so thanks for having me here, Munly. I'm a co-founder at Kaamwork, where we are ensuring that people can work from anywhere in the world, and we go by the tagline, work from anywhere. So the idea is that there's substantial talent that sits in different parts of the world, which you can access. And with the evolution of new remote technologies, it's getting all the more better and easier in terms of making sure that you can work around the clock and you can still be connected. So we are basically facilitating that. And just like Sam and Munly's things, just getting a lot of it because a lot of short because of coronavirus thing. Similarly, remote work has also picked up, and it's been keeping me busy and extremely excited towards the future of work as we are shaping it in the process.
Yeah, so actually the one thing I've been wondering this entire time, what does Kaam mean? Does it mean remote in Indian or Hindi?
So basically Kaam in Indian parlance, it means work. So you guys have heard of karma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So karma is a Sanskrit version of Kaam, and Kaam is like another derivative of karma. So basically work, if that becomes your primary motive, if that becomes your karma, then a lot of things get dissolved and you can move faster in that karmic cycle. And that's the entire genesis and origin of Kaamwork. So that's where it comes from.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So the first thing I noticed about Kaamwork is it's a very well built out page and very built out platform. You cannot tell that it's Indian anything. So that says a lot about the state of Indian IT and tech. Everything from the search, and the client, the client management, whatever. It's all very well done. So my initial idea was to flip the script here a bit because everyone always talks about remote work in the context of American companies or whatever. And like we were saying, nobody's even thinking about looking at India for to not whether it's remote or not, to even think about working for Indian companies. But now there are actually a lot of unicorns. You were the one that started that woke me up about it. Said, "Oh, we actually have a unicorn row in India." And then I had to look at how many unicorns. I think you have something like 23 unicorns total. now?
Yeah, I think it's in some 20s.
Yeah.
A lot of valuations have dipped in the recent times, but by and large, it's somewhere in 20s. But right, so Munly, when you say that the website looks something which does not really reflect the traditional notion that people have had of India. So
Yep.
the primary reason is because Indian IT it started seeing its early days in the 90s, right? And from there, it's a lot globalized workforce that works from India. So almost anybody who has been in IT for say 3 to 5 years, they would certainly have worked with people across at least 2 more countries apart from India, and that gives them a very different kind of perspective. And over the years, if you look at the kind of work that has started happening in India, a lot of it has shifted towards domestic consumption. Earlier, a lot of the IT work used to be the back office work for some companies in the States or stuff like that. But right now, what's happening is that a lot of people are using products in India, and the paying capacity has increased. And what that has led to is that these people, everybody in India demands like extremely high quality service. And if you have to provide that, that's basically going to be your cutting edge solution that could enable more people to access those things. So while this is happening, what we realize is that there's a lot of, and I've made like frequent trips to San Francisco, and what I look there is that there's a there's like great scarcity when it comes to like real quality developers, especially for startups, right? And you hire a great guy tomorrow, next week he's working with one of the FANGs, and you cannot control that because they have all the leverage. So what we started doing was we started understanding what is it exactly that these early stage companies in San Francisco need, what these startups need in San Francisco. And we kind of realized that if a good product person from India, if they can work with some companies in San Francisco, it's a great leverage for both sides. These guys in San Francisco, one of my friends, by the way, he used to have a company which was funded by YC. He was not able to get into 8th month of operations because he just had $2 million in seed funding. And the ML AI solution that he was proposing, it would require all of that money to go into just hiring like 4 folks. And at the same time ensuring the server costs and stuff like that, and he could not deliver the product. So those are the kind of things that people were suffering. And if you just pull it directly match it with the right kind of workforce that exists and sits in India, it becomes a game-changing thing. And we are realizing that people have been working with those people for like more than a year now, and it has been like extremely smooth. So these are the kind of things that are shifting. And at the same time, with a lot of things being hit because of coronavirus, right? So think of people, like Airbnb has laid off 1,900 folks yesterday, and these are all people in the Bay Area. What are these guys going to do now? They're living in an extremely overpriced real estate place. It's going to get really difficult for them. And in these times of difficulties is when you actually change a lot of your behavior. And that's where a lot of these people are starting to look back towards coming back to India and Taiwan and Vietnam and China. And the simple reason is that, look, every country in response to the 2008 crisis that happened has been trying to close its borders, right? But the work is seamlessly getting across borders, and people are well equipped in terms of how they can deliver all of those work. So those are all the kind of things that are coming into play, and remote work is the thing. And coming to the later part of the question where you were talking about how can Indian folks work in a remote setup. So what has happened in the recent times, right? So earlier it always used to be a squad of people that would be working. But in the past 10 years, with the onset of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in India, there have been a lot of developers that have come through who are like real full stack, like real 10x engineers. And each one of these guys is like pretty solid in terms of the kind of thing that they can deliver. As a matter of fact, if you look at Silicon Valley, there's a lot of people from the top IITs, NITs, and the BITS Pilanis from here in India who are working there. And it's the same breed of people. It's the same kind of friends who are here as well. And in the past decade, they've had the opportunities where they can actually work on quality work, and which is what is propelling a lot of shift in terms of people looking at workforces towards India in terms of full-fledged capacity.
Yeah, like it's kind of interesting that you sort of mentioned like when they get fired and you have the issue of the visa problems, only then do they change their behavior. because how Tahmina and I know each other is literally through the immigration and the startup visa thing. And once upon a time, I was in those shoes too. I always did work remotely, but I never really treated it as a thing, like as a way to travel. Like it never occurred to me to say like become a digital nomad. Where like I only took on this whole digital nomad thing, like went out to the digital nomad locations as a visa solution. Because Tahmina, I was struggling with this whole thing and E2 visas for the longest time. And then wait a minute, hang on. So I could go to these places and not have visa problems, and it's cheaper, and I can bootstrap more easily. And it's just like, well, bye, I'm done. I'm done with the US. And that will probably that sucks for Tahmina. That's one less client or one less potential, client gone. And Tahmina, you were asking before, like you wanted to come out to maybe Bali or something, do a seminar about like how to go to the US, and I told you. You're not going to find any willing viewers because everyone out there is running away from the US now.
It's true. I did. I went to Bali and I went to a place called Ubud, and they had a co-working space there, which was very fancy, very nice. Yeah. And I was going to do a seminar, and honestly, there were not a lot of people who wanted to hear about it because exactly what Munly said, it's so much easier and cheaper to live somewhere else and do the same work that you'd be doing in the US. And so I saw it with my own two eyes, and then when I went to this place in Ubud in Bali, I mean, there were people from all over the world, actually. A lot of Westerners were there, as well as people from Southeast Asia, South Asia. It was just a little microcosm of the world in that little co-working space. And so it was an eye-opener for sure.
Yeah, so I like a long time ago, I told you in an email, like maybe you should, like if you do something like that again, pivot to speaking about emigration. Because there's endless people that are living this life now that are looking to renounce their citizenship, completely opposite of everything we were doing in the past. And even for me, I'm slow walking this now. But so I mean, I guess we have a couple more people in here now. I think one dropped in, but they might be curious to hear about what's the middle ground. If somebody is both remote and on site, like what happens? Like if they're using a tourist visa, but then they're working remotely, then obviously this is the problem. Like have you had clients now that are in this position where they're like this mix of two, and they're like, if they're not there enough for a H-1B and it's not worth the trouble, but then they're still there some of the time, like what happens here visa-wise?
Well, the difficulty for people like that who are coming to the US is that there isn't a middle ground visa. Either you're a tourist or you're not. And if you're coming here on what's called a B1 visa, which could potentially be a middle ground, but not really. You're here to do client meetings, you're here to essentially maybe train people, but you have to show that you have work going on elsewhere. The B1 is essentially a business visa, and you cannot be paid in the US. And so whatever your reason is to come into the US, the moment you say, I'm coming here to work, you're essentially going to be turned away from the airport.
Yeah.
And so if there were a middle ground, it's a B1, let's take Abhay as an example. He has a setup in Bangalore. He's got his own business. He's coming here to maybe place some people at his client site. He's coming here to see his clients. He can come on a B1, but it's for a very short period. If he says, I'm here for 2 weeks, they'll probably just give him 2 weeks. But he could, in theory, get 6 months. But once he's here, he really has to be within those parameters of what he said. And if he stays beyond 6 months, forget it, he's not coming back. And, it really depends on the officer at the airport, whether they believe him or not. And if he keeps coming back every 2 months, let's say for every 3 weeks, he's going to be here for, in a pattern, then the immigration officer is even more suspicious. Are you working here? Are you living here? And then you may be able to get away with that twice, but third time round, you should expect to be turned away. And these days, the CBP, the Customs and Border Protection officers at the airport, have a license to be bad. You know, they're putting words into people's mouths. They're reinterpreting what they're saying. You know, people are getting banned from coming in left and right. People are getting banned for something they might have done, you know, 10 years ago that is now being misconstrued as, oh, that was fraud. You know, and now you're getting bans, and I'm seeing that a lot. But Canadians are not safe either. Canadians are getting that at the border as well. So that safety net that you used to have of people coming from Canada to here are seeing different scenarios altogether. So the answer is no middle ground. The middle ground that could be a middle ground is not a safe solution either.
Yeah, so, you know, when Sam and I did that panel, The Country on the Internet, like, you know, I did, after the panel, I thought about this a little bit more passively, and this segues perfectly in, because obviously existing immigration authorities are not set up for internet work or this internet period. And he was talking, you know, their whole premise is country on the internet. So essentially, what if we could be like, we could just declare ourselves, our legal and our tax and our work is on the internet. It's not bound to any country. So if someone declares this, then what if other countries agree to then defer to this internet country legislation or whatever, and then we would have special visas for that, including something that's middle ground or whatever. And if you just say that, oh, that's the case, you know, you can't, even if we had a national legal entity in the country, you can't really tie it to this country, because, you know, really everyone just works everywhere, and everyone's, you know, just everywhere working constantly. Sam, you know, are these in line with what you guys are, you know, are these thoughts in line with what you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much just like you outlined there, and also in the talk, it's just all about getting government buy-in. So talking about how difficult it is in the US right now, it's pretty difficult to imagine them allowing some sort of hybrid visa in the near future, given how strict they are. Then you look at other countries that are significantly more open to it and are also probably seeing a little bit more benefit from the nomad scene. So just kind of how you mentioned how there wasn't a lot of interest in talking to nomads that want to go to the United States. Everyone's kind of going the opposite direction. Like, I think because of that, you're going to see the countries they're going to start to adopt these visas more for nomads. And I think that's kind of how we're approaching it, as well as looking at our nomad community and saying, where are people trying to go? Where are they wanting to go? And then that gets into the notion of countries really competing for people, right? Because if you're
they should
wanting
be, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And so what we're kind of hearing now is everyone's looking at the US saying, boy, it's really expensive. They sure didn't handle that crisis very well. It's almost impossible to get in. There's a bunch of restrictions. It's starting to not look that. Yeah, it's starting to not look that competitive compared to other countries.
Every single American that's still in Thailand that was able to stay here, you know, like they stuck around after the extension, everyone is so glad to be here. It's like, yeah, no one wants to go back.
Well, and I think
it's a similar scene here. It's a similar scene here. So there were about, I think, 4,500 US citizens who were supposed to be traveling back, and they are now saying to the US embassy that, hey, no, we don't want a flight back. So
your numbers in India are better than America.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I was talking to a friend in India during this, and she's an American citizen, and, you know, basically everyone from her family to her government is saying you should evacuate back to the US. And she's like, well, why would I want to do that? I don't want to evacuate back to the US. It's safer here, and I want to stay here.
Yeah, we officially hit zero COVID cases in the hospitals, like just today in Chiang Mai. We're COVID free now, in hospitals anyway, supposedly.
Kudos, man. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, that is. And I think it's things like that where you look at how each country has handled the pandemic. And that's a great case study for saying, boy, I kind of want to choose what system I'm under when something like that happens. I don't want to just be at the whim or the mercy of whatever, government I might happen to be in. So I think it's making people realize that, boy, we do want a lot more choice and a lot more options in not only where we physically are, but where our legal entities are, where our healthcare is, where our actual residency is. There's a lot of components.
Yeah, is it going to be easier for you to get buy-in if essentially like it's a whole package deal? So you have your social safety net and you have the immigration. Like it really does at this point you are taking over more functions of the state. and maybe it would make it easier for you to become kind of like an internet state, right? Like, is that working out like that so far? Yeah.
That's actually our long-term, the dream vision is what we right now call membership, but you could call it more like digital citizenship, where you are a member of the country on the internet, and you do get these benefits like healthcare and like pension plans and finance, but maybe you also have like this digital visa we were talking about, where it says, like this is the entity that they're a part of. As you guys pointed out earlier, it's like their business is online, their work is online. It's not in your country, but it's also not in that country. And once you get to that point, you're completely correct. If you can lump all of that into something that looks like membership or a citizenship, it's going to outweigh all of these weird kind of funky hybrid systems that weren't meant for the digital remote world.
Yeah, well, the problem there, though, it also takes away potential tax revenue. So then, like, I don't know how you guys are going to work it out. Like, you're essentially going to have to do like nation state rev sharing.
Yeah, that's when I'm glad I'm on the growth side of things, not the policy side of things.
I'm going to say that those are going to be some interesting business development conversations that I would love to. Yeah. Yeah,
the policy team at Safetywing is fortunately both very intelligent and very ambitious. They're great.
Ambitious.
They're hard at work. I'm glad it's not me, but I'm glad we have the team we do.
Yeah, like Tahmina, actually, this whole time I'm wondering, like, would it actually be hard for you to set up basically an immigration practice as a result of all of this?
That's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I don't see myself doing it, but there are law firms that do, and it's all sort of like an outsourcing, system of which immigration lawyers are in which country and how can I connect them, because each country has their own systems and you can't as one person know everything. But there are law firms that have relationships with other law firms, and even just yesterday, for example, a client said to me, hey, I want to move to the Netherlands, can you find me somebody? And I went to a listserv and I said, hey, can I have contacts for somebody from the Netherlands? And many people gave me many referrals. So the question about whether I would do it, I don't know, but there are law firms that do it.
Yeah, like to see that the hard part isn't actually the migration part. The hard part is divorce from the IRS.
Right.
Yeah, my new saying is, like you can divorce an American wife a lot more easily than you can divorce the IRS.
Yeah, and to be honest, they've made it even more difficult. I think the Trump administration particularly has made it more difficult, and it's a very expensive process. You have to give up a lot as you say goodbye to the IRS, and so there are people who are doing it though. But it's something, and just so people can know, it is not something that can be done within the US. When you are giving up US citizenship, you have to have a tax expert give you advice first, because you need to know what those exit taxes are. And then when you've taken care of all of those, that's when you go to an embassy, and the embassy will help you denaturalize. And it's a very long process in getting to that point, but people are doing it. And the fee to actually denaturalize, the immigration fee, is something in the $3,000 to $4,000 range.
Wow.
One of the most expensive fees.
Wow. Yeah. So what if there were multiple countries on the internet? So you would have to you would have to denaturalize from one country to go to the other one, because like right now I think there would be Asgardia, who's their space nation, right? The legal framework, and really not a whole lot else. The next closest competitor might be Safetywing. I think we brought this up at the panel, and there could be more. Like I've been wanting my own basic income nation, or at least my basic income city. Where we're going, we don't need jobs. I want to do that one day. But yeah, I mean, like for me, I'm gonna have to get into some gaming, like mentioning myself, like going back to what Abhay said about like recruitment, about loyalty, not losing your best engineers to the banks. It's essentially like my way of like squeezing gaming into this panel is that, okay, we're gonna have a remote work, but we're missing a social layer. And Zoom is not your social layer, especially not when you're having Zoom meetings as well. You need something else, right? So among like the more nerdier types, like not the hipster geeks that make me scared of the Star Wars team. Anyway, like the original, Star Trek watching, Star Wars type geeks, gaming and tech usually crosses over really well, and it still does. Like within like our members, we have I have a story where I had a Vietnamese she's a designer, but she basically works for major brands in Vietnam. And we had a music producer in the Philippines, and we all signed up to kill zombies together. Okay, but by the end of like one day of killing zombies together, because I encouraged us to talk about what we did career-wise, they've started working together as well, like on client projects together. And the thing is, like, what's actually keeping that together is because they both are also like, they're both complete cheap asses, so they prefer playing the free games, and they have the same taste in free games. So they get to not only work together, but they're like, the glue that holds us together is that they're able to socialize together on the same cheap ass free games when they're not working. So, like, money will only take you, so money is more important in a place like the Fangs, but outside of that, like, when you get away from that, you come to Nomad or whatever, and all of a sudden, a 200K salary isn't needed just to be above poverty in San Francisco. That opens things up a lot. I mean, in Chiang Mai, we had a story of coworker.com being built on 130K or something like that of seed funding, right? That's really more pre-seed. But with that check, she was able to onboard a lot of Western talent that just wanted the Nomad life. Like, the team size was around 10 plus people for 130K check. That is ridiculous. And so the motivation there obviously was not money, it was like a shared love of travel or whatever. But yeah, what I want to do with balance is that I definitely want maybe like entrepreneurship, collaboration, whatever, but have that clue be that, that shared love of gaming. It's these intangibles, like, sometimes, like they call it company culture or whatever, but yeah, I really think it's these intangibles that really help you recruit and keep a team together versus, say, someone like the Fang. Because, I mean, the one disadvantage that they have is often they're not a whole lot of fun to work for anymore, and they don't even entertain remote benefits a lot of the time, So.
I think the gaming community could help the larger remote work world a lot with that, because what I always see in our own community and users is the number one complaint is always isolation and loneliness. And keep in mind that was long. Right. And that's like long before the quarantine and whatnot. So it's only gotten worse now. And gaming actually provides that solution to the problem of how do you have that real life interpersonal interaction with someone remotely. Like for Safetywing, it's a huge deal for us that we have physical meetups a couple times a year, and you can feel the real difference in that. So it's like, how do you achieve that in a way that doesn't involve flying somewhere physically? I actually think gaming is like one of the prime examples of that, exactly what you were just talking about. I think the rest of the remote work world could learn quite a lot from that community.
Yeah, like I'm really not sure why there's not that, well, I have an idea, like why there's not that much crossover between gaming and nomads, because the nomads are primarily focused on travel. Right, so I had this other group called Geo Arbitragers, which is basically like a fork. I want it to be like a fork of the Nomad community. Like, I haven't posted it on Nomad groups yet, but essentially, I'm arguing that location independence is really the thing that we all have in common, and digital nomads are just a subset of location independence. So the geo arbitrager is the opposite of a nomad, someone who's internally focused versus having external experiences, and is primarily concerned about time. About like being able to maximize your own time, like being able to manage it well versus wasting it in a commute and all of that. That nomads and arbitragers may have more in common, but it's really a case of more like long-term goals and focusing more on optimizing the finances versus the nomad. Nomads tend to spend everything that they make right back into their travels, effectively having no savings, and most of the time not even enough savings to replace a laptop if it gets lost. This is something that I've just bashed into a lot of nomads. Just like, come on, guys, like really, like no laptop means you don't eat, right? Can you just, like deprioritize the travel at least enough to cover that for yourself? Yeah.
Well, I can chime in over here. So basically, see, one of the ways where digital nomads are always going to be different from like full-time remote workers is primarily that full-time remote workers would be living in a house. They would be based out of one same location. So they are not as incentivized by travel, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at like the remote workers that are working with us, there's a very few number of people who are actually digital nomads, like just 10%
Yeah, I was
of
gonna
that.
ask. Yeah.
But the remainder of them, they actually gel like really well over like Counter-Strike games. They gel great over like the FIFA. So that's actually happening, and we keep on doing some of the other kind of like game nights and stuff like that. And see,
You've got game
that's
nights.
gonna
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, and those are the things which are gonna be like company culture of the times to come. You cannot just force everybody to be in just one place and play some of the earlier existing board games, because see, we're not going to be seeing each other in person a lot more. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm somebody who feeds off by energy of people by seeing them around and gets energized by that. But even, I mean, I don't see myself going out to office for the next 3-4 months. So how are we going to come together as a community? Because like Sam was mentioning that all these remote workers at some point of time or the other, they tend to feel that loneliness or the sense of not where are we directionally headed and what are we doing and stuff like that. Because social creatures, we are all social creatures, and we need that kind of community support to thrive well, for a lot of our mental faculties to function well. And uh, specifically these remote workers, they tend to suffer a lot over there, and that's one of the reasons where we are building this community. We call that as the Kaamforce community, which is an idea that, okay, these are a few people who are working with Kaamwork, and at the same time there is a lot of other folks who are working remotely, and they can all come together over there just under the umbrella of a community, and we can do like common things based on what are the kind of likings and hobbies you have. And it could be as simple as like common reading. So there are common reading sessions that we are having for people, and it could be as little as like 4 folks, but it is happening, and there are 4 people who are bonding with each other. The best part, because these 4 people are now working for different companies, so I can just open up entirely without any sense of being judged or anything of that sort, because these are actual friends. These are not like office friends or stuff like that, because office friendships can come to bite you at a later stage, but these friendships, they're never going to affect your professional thing ever. And each one of these guys is going to be like supporting each other even in terms of their core product work that they are at. So that's where remote certainly needs a lot of culture thing that could be imbibed in it, which is primarily to cater to how emotional intelligence in people responds to a lot of social factors. But gaming certainly could be one of the strongest ones. I mean, and I have known friends who like met in their like freshman year, and then they've been friends for 20 years only because they were playing the same game.
Yeah,
So,
I know. That was a lot of the the basis for doing balance.
Yeah.
I want to share a story, not that I have anything like that to share, but, children who are not going to school are facing the same sort of social isolation. And I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they're missing their friends dearly.
Exactly.
And so we have had Minecraft nights at this point, where my 10-year-old and 7-year-old are playing Minecraft with their other 10-year-old, 7-year-old friends, and 4 or 5 of them have gotten together and they're all over Xbox playing Minecraft. And I think on Saturday, another friend and one of my children, they were just playing for 5 hours. And ordinarily in the normal course of school, you'd be like, don't do that. But what else are they going to do? It's a Saturday, and we need to keep them busy anyway. So it's true. I had never appreciated the value of gaming in the sense that you're speaking about. I'm seeing a very tiny portion of it because I am now affected.
The still fun part. I'm talking about mixing in ambition and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you're definitely talking about it on a broader level, and I don't see it all the time to appreciate it as much, but I'm just starting to see an evolution in my own household, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, like one thing we say a lot for balance is that the average age of gamers is now like 40, approaching 40, and no one's giving up. We just have less time. I mean, there was a really funny story that happened about 6 weeks ago. somebody was in the Discord and we were like saying, you know, are you ready to shoot zombies? Are you ready to play? So he's like, no, because I'm still on the clock. I have a second monitor with Skype. I've got to wait. I've got to be like on call ready in case clients call me or whatever. And then we started asking what he did. He's like, oh, okay, I'm doing PPP EIDL. He's a preparer. So both of us, we've been struggling with that. I mean, like I'd already like, you know, we'd already launched ours and I think he was having trouble. Someone said, oh, that's great because I need someone to do that. And he's like, okay, well, fine. Well, why don't you just like, why don't we start talking about it now? And then we'll shoot zombies after I get your business details. You know, I'm working with a private lender and blah, blah, blah. And that happened. It happened right in my supposedly gaming gaming community. And like, I didn't encourage it or whatever, you know, just people knew that was like the theme. So, I mean, where our membership side is still like not where it should be. Like, I think we'll finally launch something better this month or whatever. But I specifically haven't hit the gas on it yet. But even right now, I didn't expect the concept to be validated this early, to have some success stories this early. Like, we're not charging a monthly recurring yet because we haven't worked out everything. But it's just like, I just didn't expect this to happen within. I was telling Sam, like, we spent a grand total of 6 days on growth total of our 5+ month existence. So to have this happen with basically like 6 days of effort already to have the concept validated and having success stories is amazing. So I really know this can take off when we do it, and hopefully it doesn't get like too boring. Like we haven't had our first non-gaming networking event, but that's coming soon, and I'm just hoping people don't get bored to tears for that. So, you know, worst to worst come, we'll make some gaming at the end of it. Yeah.
I don't think I'd be worried about people getting bored too much, because kind of one thing that I think I heard on a recent interview with our CEO, Sandra, and Andreas Klinger from AngelList, who's the head of remote there, is this idea that what we all knew was going to happen in the next, 10 years, both remote workers and gamers, in terms of the world moving online, people interacting more digitally. We've all been doing this for years, so we all knew it was coming over the next decade. Basically, what's happened is the entire world's been forced into it in the course of a few months. And so we see it professionally, all of these people that are now realizing how much work they can do remotely. Tahmina was saying with her children, like, they're realizing that, like, oh, we can play games with our friends online, where the whole gaming community is like, we've been doing this for many years.
For 30 years or so,
Right. So everyone's all of a sudden at once, because of this, realizing just how much is possible to be done virtually and digitally.
No, it's really shocking how much of Silicon Valley isn't remote, and I think that's probably a big reason why you started Kaamwork. You guys probably noticed that too. It's like you guys in India are probably more remote than Silicon Valley. Like, what do you think about that, Abhay?
Well, yes, and you know what, I can very clearly say that you don't need an office for work. You need office. That's where adults socialize. You don't need schools for education. That's where kids socialize. And if everybody is forced to work from home, how do you socialize? And that's where a lot of this is coming together. Because if you think of it this way, as adults, now a lot of us are going to choose this lifestyle because we have been forced into it, and suddenly we would realize that, hey, I can do a lot better. And to Sam's point, when he was mentioning that this guy was clearly saying that we always saw that remote work is coming, but people, it would come in like a lot of years. What was actually happening? Nobody liked that commute. I mean, a lot of people who are working in the Mission district area of SF or downtown in SF, they come from like Sunnyvale and those kind of places, or from like Portland and places, which is terrible. I mean, you're spending like an hour on each side of commute. Why? Because rent prices are humongous, and it's why would you want that kind of lifestyle? And that's why Silicon Valley started some of this. That okay, you guys can work from home for a couple of days. I think a lot of offices have like Thursdays off. Thursdays work from home even before all this COVID thing came into being. But what was happening is that people were starting to realize that, hey, people can actually work as well if they were away. But people had not addressed that. How can you answer this socializing bit? Because socializing is not a trivial thing. It's as important as existence. How do you address that? And that's a lot where the human element of how do you make things work comes in. And in India, on the contrary, what was happening is that people have always been like very close to their families. The family and the relationship culture over here has been always strong. So what happened is the moment you put people into isolation or like during the coronavirus time, people are starting to learn a lot better to connect with their parents or with their friends, with their relatives, and everybody happens to do some of the other similar kind of things. So it's a lot better address because the societies here is knit in a way wherein you don't really have to step out to an office to have that kind of a societal feel, but you can bank on some of your relatives and stuff like that. So socialization was not something which was an integral part of offices here. I can tell you what was an integral part of office here, because over here you cannot really expect that sense of space. So while you're working, somebody would barge into your room and then they would want to talk, and that's the cultural difference that we see between a US and an India or a China. I mean, the east or the west, if I can put it that way. So and one of the things that we are seeing like extensively, a lot of our folks who are working from India or Thailand, what they're doing is they're setting up a different room which they're calling it as their offices, and they can just
that's what I was
get up
suggesting
and
in the last one. Yeah.
exactly, and you can just get to that room and then you're suddenly in that zone. So in India, the concept of remote work actually was starting to be adopted much faster because on a lot of factors we certainly care about costs, right? And like the case is there in San Francisco, it's a similar situation here. You can't really, it's not easy to find a great developer in Bangalore. A little easier than San Francisco, but
yeah.
yeah, despite the abundance of developers here, but at the same time there are going to be far away and remote cities where you can get like real class developers at about half the price. So that's what is helping people in India to make the shift to remote and still being okay about it. And the bigger reason why these people choose to take lesser salaries and still work at similar kind of jobs is because they're closer to their families, and that becomes important in terms of their decision making. So there are different parameters around how the Western life is or the Eastern life is, but what I'm seeing is that the commute was unnecessary and commute is going to go. So you are now going to sit in the home. What this is going to lead to is that eventually you would start questioning that should my child be going to that private school which is like really far off from here, and he's actually taking a lot of time. I mean, why? So kids have to get up at about what recently San Francisco had this rule that no schools would open before 10:30, something like that. But a lot of schools in India, they start at about what 7 a.m. So the kid has to get up at 6 and get ready and leave. And almost everybody says unanimously that kids need a larger sleep cycle, so they should be sleeping till much late. And if they should be sleeping till much late, then it'll also be a case for home schooling. And the moment you start building that case, you're basically shifting the waste layer that a society had, that you've got to go to the office for socialization, you got to go to school for socialization. Learning can happen at home, work can happen at home. The only element of socialization, how do you factor that in? There's going to be a lot of other things that are going to be built around that. One is how you build strong communities, and I think gaming is going to be one of the strongest pillars of that.
Yeah, like, in a place like Chiang Mai, like why I enjoy it out here is because the social life, I get asked about this whole, like, are you lonely, social life all the time? And no, Facebook, Facebook has become my office and social layer in the one. And then in a place like Chiang Mai, we can just go outside and meet a billion other remote workers to go have coffee with and talk shop and whatever. Like, no, loneliness between all these things and gaming, not a factor. I mean, my life was basically this already. Quarantine hasn't really changed much other than, stopping me from going to 7-Eleven at like 3 a.m. That's really annoying now. But yeah, I think we'll do one more topic and then wrap it up and have questions from the viewers. But like one thing I wanted to have you talk about is like the companies in India, right, that are the unicorns, the ones that like the Westerners should start to know about. Like, especially if they're adopting remote work. Like, can you just like list them out, maybe talk a little bit about them?
So the thing is, there's a lot of companies that are encouraging people to work remote, and if I can be honest, a lot of these have been forced because of COVID situation, right? Yeah. But at the same time, because this has lasted for like a few weeks, and Indian government has taken like very, very strict measures in terms of making sure that nobody goes out. The Indian police is on the road, and if you would have had the opportunity of looking at some videos, you can frame it in a different perspective and call it human rights violation, which I saw there were in some of the other countries. But at the same time, this has been super instrumental. And with a country of population density of India, if something goes wrong, it could be like disaster. The casualties could look in millions very quickly. And they've been super strict on that. And what people are realizing out of that is that people are doing just fine while working from home. Some of them are maybe working a little longer, but they were anyway commuting a lot. And Indian cities are like notorious in terms of commute, right?
Yeah,
so
hey,
that's happening.
That actually, I mean, like that wasn't really like the question. Wasn't so much about remote and how this is affecting. It's just more like a primer on for us that know nothing about Indian tech. What are the companies, the standouts that we should know about? I think you said
sure.
Yeah, you have Paytm, like you said that they've got some remote jobs on your site, and you mentioned Tata. Yeah, and what are some of the other ones that basically we should pay attention to and just be like, Jai Hind, go India.
Exactly. So basically, no, that's what I'm trying to answer. So basically, a lot of companies, because of these situations, have now realized that people can work remotely. Yeah. Right. And because in the wake of that, if there is good talent that is applying to companies and it says that I'm going to work from XYZ location, despite the fact that the job would mention that you've got to be in some different location, people are open now. Okay, start working from there. That's fine. And that's where the entire context. So there's a lot of unicorns, like Paytm is doing that, Snapdeal is doing that. There is TCS, which is a very, very large enterprise company, and they are encouraging people, and they're saying that by 2025, 75% of their workforce is going to be entirely remote, and that's a huge number. 75% of the workforce of TCS, that's like a few 100,000 people. So that's the kind of magnitude that has happened in India. And at the same time, Munly, there's a lot of companies who are situated outside, but they are allowing people to work from India because of certain easier things that they can access and some cost arbitrage that they can avail. So that's also happening. So a lot of Silicon Valley startups are looking to hire folks in cities like Bangalore and places.
Yeah, I would definitely be open to it. Sam?
Can I ask you a follow-up question on that? I
Sure.
think kind of just where you ended on that, I think a lot of startups, particularly in the Valley, are going to come out of this this lockdown into a probably what's going to be a very severe recession, and say, not only can we no longer afford our office space in San Francisco, but we can no longer afford to pay San Francisco salaries for our developers. If I'm one of those startups during the recession and I'm all of a sudden for the first time open to hiring talent from these other locations, where would you recommend I go to look for good talent in India if I'm a startup? Like where would I go?
Kaamwork. You just come there. There's enough people, and I can tell you there is people from a lot of cities in India. That's one, and two, there are people also from countries like Brazil and Poland and a lot of Eastern European countries. So if you're a lot more concerned about the time zone thing, you can choose one of these countries. If you're concerned about the language thing, that I want exact language, I want comprehensibility to be higher, you can work with Indians, and that's where it lies. You got to choose which are the kind of people that you want to work with. And a lot of people in India, they're open to working like late night, so they're ready to start at say 6 p.m. and go until 2 a.m. and then do some gaming and then sleep in the morning. So there are folks like that.
Familiar.
Munly is like, okay, that rings a bell. That's deja vu.
Right there.
Yeah. So, but basically, if you absolutely want to hire the kind of people, what we are saying is that don't go by geography. You go by what are the important parameters for you. What is the kind of time overlap that you want? What are the specific skills that you need? And once you have that people, you would have them in abundance in all the places of the world. And then you decide what priorities you have. If you, like I mentioned, around language or location and stuff like that, just zero in on the better kind of person, and you get to and we have embedded this feature on our platform. You get to hear a 1 minute recorded video of the person when they're applying to your job, right? So you get to understand around what are the kind of internet facilities at their place, what is how their communication abilities are, and things like that. And at the same time, one big shift that I'm recently noticing, and I think Munly also brought that up as head back, right? H1B. A lot of people are reaching out to us. They are just wary of the fact that what's the point of staying in the US?
Yeah.
Right. When they went back, say about 20 years back, the India of then and the India of now is like drastically changed. I mean, the level of living and the quality of services that we demand, it has gone significantly higher. And in a large city, you can get as many things as you would get in any of the US cities, barring maybe clean air right now. But
same for Thailand.
but the rest of the stuff is there, and they're thinking that why are they sitting away from their parents, why are they sitting away from their why are their kids not being raised in this kind of fashion when all things lie here and they can be much more comfortable here. So a lot of people started engaging in conversations with us, especially when Trump said that okay, the green card thing would be banned and they cannot just go ahead in the process. So that took a lot of people wait. I mean, I waited for this for 8 years, and this took like a couple of days to say this doesn't work. And people are like, this thing, this is not how it should be. So that's why people are just realizing, and a lot of these people are open to relocating to different parts of India, and they would be absolutely open. But these are like same talent which was working in San Francisco like a month back,
right?
Like couple of months out, he's gonna be in any city of India. How does it matter? Because internet connectivity in India in just a span of like 2 years has changed drastically. Right now,
I was wondering because what my friend told me before. We were saying like Vodafone of India is like 1,000 times better than what he has in Canada and so on. Literally, we're not joking. Your plan.
It is. It is. I mean, I mean, in the US, unless you get that hotspot from AT&T, right? I don't get that kind of a mobile tower that I get in most places in Bangalore. And when I say Bangalore is a large city which has a lot of small villages as well. And those villages have as good an internet connectivity. So if that guy is sitting from there, what difference does it cost to the work? Because this guy knows how to work with an SF company with the exact same kind of team culture. And that's why this is opening up like crazy. And people want to be in like interiors of India. A lot of people around spirituality and stuff like that. They want to come back. They want to get to like far places from noises and just build their lives again. But they're skilled workers and they can do that shit from wherever and whichever part of the world. So they're like really bullish on that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I wanted to add to what Abhay said, and Abhay, I'd love to connect afterwards too. The executive order that was signed 2 weeks ago that banned green cards for a short amount of time, that very executive order did say that in 30 days they're going to reassess and see what else they might do. And there is a big fear that H-1Bs could be under further scrutiny. And so there's very people that are actually coming to you might actually increase once this executive order, addition has been, declared. We don't know what it is, but the two things that do come to mind is when this president came into office, he did say that, I don't want chain migration. And lo and behold, 3 years later, through COVID-19 as a vehicle, he's done that because the ban was purely on family visas and a little bit of employment. But he's always hated the H-1B visa. And now is an opportunity for him to make those differences. So it hasn't ended quite yet, the troubles. There are further troubles in the pipeline.
Exactly that. And you know what, Tahmina, what I realize is that he came to power on those promises and he's just delivering those. That's as right. Normal as it gets. And his vote base absolutely wants that. COVID is supporting that, right? Mm-hmm. So he would go on delivering on these promises and people are going to suffer. And at the same time, the American companies that do not have a lot of skilled workers back in the home, how do they manage that? And that's where a lot of things are going to move in the upcoming years.
Yeah, have those 20 23 or whatever unicorns, they could have been in the US. they could have been they could have been paying corporate taxes. They could have been hiring ancillary and related workers to those talent. Blah 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 blah. Like someone like me is now like practically gone. Like, I might not come back. I mean, I'm not as young as I might look, so I'm already questioning this. Like, the US is really a terrible place to be when you're old. And I'm, again, by the time I get back over there, I'm going to be more old than young. Like, is there even a point to this anymore? I mean, Thailand is the best country to be when you're old. So, Yeah, anyway, look, we got 3 people. Yeah, we got 3 people in the chat. So I think we'll just open it up if any of you guys want to chime in and ask any questions. Any of you guys at all? Now's the time to unmute the mic. Otherwise, we can probably keep going for, for a few more minutes. John, you trying to say something there? Nope. Hello.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. All right. Yeah.
We have a wise audience.
Huh? Oh,
we have a wise audience.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, like we covered. Yeah, we pretty much covered, I think, almost everything at this point. Anything that you guys can think of to add?
I think we covered a lot of the stuff, but I mean, I'm really in awe of the kind of work that Sam is doing, especially around the Nomad insurance, and primarily because I was at the receiving end of it. I mean, the last time I was in US, I was for like 4 months there, but I had taken insurance just for 3 months, and for the additional month that I had to take it because I took it in India and then went to the States, it was a very, very mucky process. For a month of insurance, I had to go through like 2 days. 2 days were literally wasted because you have to do this and then that and that. And I can really feel the value of the stuff that you're doing. So kudos to that. And I would love to understand how people on digital nomadism that people are following through Kaamwork, how they can access that. It'll be interesting. So I would love to connect offline on that.
Yeah, we have, I have exactly 3 gift certificates to give away, and there's exactly 3 viewers in here, so you guys are all going to get gift certificates. As long as you
nice.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you comment in chat or somewhere or original post that you saw, there's like your email address, like reach out and get this to you guys. But I'm gonna print screen anyway, just so I can follow up. Like
just a couple. Oh, sorry. Just let me cut in just a couple things to add to just the insurance thing. If anyone's interested in kind of just the whole country on the internet remote work project more generally, just make sure you follow us on our social media accounts, Safetywing. We have an upcoming content project called Building Remotely that we're really excited about. I'll actually probably be reaching out to all of you guys to give some information on topics like hiring remotely, visas remotely, maybe one on virtual culture with gaming and whatnot. So that's very exciting. We've also got like some more virtual health products coming out, like Virtual Doctor, where you can do quite a bit over video chat, medically and whatnot with prescriptions and checkups. So that's like the short plug I'll get. Just follow us if you're interested either in the concept of the country on the internet, remote work more largely, or these concept of a social safety net.
Yeah, I should say, like, since I'm also on Safetywing, like, are they like the whole process with them, where it's like if you're gonna go to the US, it's literally just a checkbox saying I'm going to the US, and this adds an extra $10, and there's like no extra crap. It's just that, like
It is more than $10 because it's the US, but yes.
Okay, fine. Okay, I might have remembered the price wrong, but.
The US is always the tricky one, aren't we? We're always the trouble child.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe I'm getting away with it because you guys are like, treating me as a Thai. Who knows? Anyways. Yeah. At the same time, Tahmina, if you get another shot to like travel again, that's probably the alternative. Like, there's no other insurance company, I think, that just makes it as easy, just like seamlessly.
Well, that's really good to know. I didn't know about that for sure. So now it's Safetywing every time we travel somewhere. When we can travel again, we had to spend a lot of time canceling travels up until August. Every month we were going somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, you were here in February, so I mean, like you could have almost run into the 2 of us. Yeah,
I know, it's so funny. Well, and speaking of when we can travel again, I'm working with a couple friends on just kind of like a side project for our own use. We're obviously the most eager ones in the world to travel again is all the nomads. So we're trying to work on like a tool where you can just be notified by email once you can travel to a certain country again.
Oh,
so it's kind of like the social distancing. We'll see if I can get that out the door as well. That's not necessarily Safetywing related, but I guess it's all just sort of remote work and nomadism.
Yeah, well, I would look forward to seeing that actually.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
own gamer travel, like gamer time arbitrage travel thing is now on hold also because of all of this. You know, yeah, that's definitely a
Mm.
whole thought process where I have to tell gamers, you know, actually you don't have to play these games at home. There are a lot of places where you could financially responsibly do nothing but play video games for a lot for a lot less money, you know. But
Yeah.
okay, man, yeah, it was great to have you, you know, have you on. I'm not sure if I want to do this again though. Like, so there's a lot of demographics, you know, to cover to get the word out. But yeah, maybe we can attempt this again.
Well,
Yeah.
this was very useful, I think. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, the information that you've shared here for people who are working remotely, it's invaluable.
Yeah.
And for people like me who don't necessarily know it, it's invaluable. And I have clients who may well be looking for assistance from each of you, you know, because their stay in the US may, you know, come to an end at some point. But, you know, obviously I help people come to the US, and there is a lot of value to being here still. And, you know, there are visas that work. And so if anybody is looking for that, I'd be happy to help them. But I can see that your services could be even more valuable in the coming weeks and months and years.
Yeah, I just feel bad for you because if it's going in this direction that you said, I've seen you say on Facebook where, you know, you're no longer fighting immigration minutia requests for comments, you're fighting for like the immigration system to even exist these days.
That's right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
now
so-
I'm like, before it was like, hey, let's have a startup visa. And now it's very much like, don't touch it. I'll rather have this broken system than you breaking it even more.
yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
but one of the suggestions that Munly had, right? Emigration versus immigration.
Yeah.
I would just request you to please look into that, because that would, I mean, there's a lot of latent demand there, and people,
Yeah, there is,
I
especially
mean,
out here. Yeah.
exactly, and especially on the H1B page that we made, right? There's a lot of people hitting that, and almost every day. And
Interesting.
they certainly want to move to some other country or their native countries, but they certainly do want to move out of there. So that's a substantial number.
I think
Okay.
I've got one more thing to ask you. Hey, like, do you have anyone that was forced into remote and they're still not really happy about it, and you know, about being in India, they're still trying to get back over, so they actually would want to talk to someone like Tahmina? Are you seeing that a lot within like the people you know in your client base?
Not at all, actually. So see,
Wow.
the thing is, if you're indoors, right,
Yeah.
doesn't matter where you are,
Mhm.
so long as you have electricity and a good Wi-Fi.
This is my line. This is normally my line. You know, I tell my mom. But yeah, she's still like, you know, what are you doing? You know, like she's still worried about me. But yeah, so is there even any initial resistance? Like, I've already got this sunk cost in the US because of my time and my just mentally, you know. And then like, did they have this resistance and they go back to India and they're like, wow, okay, actually it's not so bad here anymore? Does that ever happen?
6 weeks back, a lot of the times, right?
weeks,
But
yeah.
but just this 6-7 weeks of coronavirus, right? And the way it has been handled in the States, a lot of people are questioning if their decisions are wise or not, because
Yeah.
it's life threatening, right? And I mean, the pictures are like shocking. My prayers to those people, but that's troublesome, and a lot of people are now like, wait, I can do anything but just and now they're realizing that they have high paying jobs here. They have
Yeah.
companies which have like as good a healthcare and like benefits and stuff like that. So all of that is taken care of, and now you, if you don't want to move, then there is no reason why you are not moving. Then you're just stuck into something which was fed into you like 30 years back, and now you're just living that, and nobody likes that life, right? So now people are waking to that. But like, yes, 7 weeks, 8 weeks back, if we were speaking to people, they would have a lot of things that, would this work, would this not work? Now everybody's working remote. Everybody's like, can we just get out of here and get to some other place? And that's happening strongly. I think Thailand has done a great job in terms of even in Bangkok, people are like moving onto the streets. There's not a need of lockdown. A lot of things are settled. Singapore has done a tremendous job. So people are looking at all of these options. It's not just coming back to India. Coming back to India, yes, because a lot of these guys originated from here, but they're open to moving to like anywhere, and that's what we are propagating as well. Just work from anywhere. Just find a good internet, find a good place where you can be, just go work. don't
Yeah,
worry on the rest of the stuff.
On the last point, which is Thailand, which still hasn't fully embraced nomads because it's a mixture of like being disappointed / still confused as to like what value nomads represent. They had like at least 2 or 3 people that could have been on a startup visa. Like technically, I'm the first one in Chiang Mai, and only like 1 or 2. But they easily, I could have had, I could have brought in myself something like 20 to 40 skilled immigrants for them. They couldn't wrap their head around this. Most of them left. There were still, I have a different group called Smart Visa Thailand Community, and there's like 9 people in there. Out of those 9 people, 3 or 4 of them left because Thailand couldn't give certainty for the extensions, what was happening with COVID. So everyone said, just to be on the safe side, because we're worried about getting hospital treatment, preferences towards Thai, we're going to have to leave. We're not happy about it. Those people could have applied to Thailand, didn't give any certainty on what the nomad situation was, whether they still wanted nomads. And so those people left. 2 of them are back in the States now. They're just saying it's horrible. We wish we never left. It's like, wish it's probably still better in Thailand. They're asking me, I'm like, yeah, it is. No food shortages, no toilet paper problems. Like the last COVID patient that left, they did a whole event around it. They gave him toilet paper and hand sanitizer and tests and all this other stuff to take home, stuff that you can't even buy in America, for free. Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. The pictures are on my Facebook page. It's hilarious. I mean, like these are things that you get for free in Thailand that you can't even buy in America now. Have fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one more thing that I've realized during this pandemic, the handling of states which are led by women has been phenomenal. Mm-hmm. New Zealand has done a great job. Chancellor Merkel has done a great job. And all of this, and it's a lot of things would be rethought, but starting with like the very basics of things, it's going to be a lot of emphasis on how people can just cut the clutter and focus on the basics and just embrace things which are extremely natal to us, but we have been putting them on the side for a lot of time.
Yep.
लिंक भेजो मेरे को भी, मेरे पास लिंक भी है.
वो Slack वाले पे जाना जरूरी पड़ी है.
Was that a question? Or someone just left their mic on?
No, I think the guy who has his mic on, so maybe.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
But I think we're just winding it up.
Yeah, we're winding it up.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for coming. I'm glad it turned out to be a pretty good panel. I'm glad we still managed to find some people come in because none of you that are in the chat right now managed to find your way into Eventbrite. None. One of you I had to add in manually. So I'm not doing it this way ever again. But I'm glad some of you made it here.
We're gonna do more of these, but we're gonna do it in a different fashion. And
yeah,
we can because the things that we have shared, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people who would be taking to those learnings. But we'll do it in a different style sometime later.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to follow your lead on this one. You do more of these than I do, I think. Yeah.
Well, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to meet all of you guys, and great discussion. I hope we get a chance to do it again soon.
Me too.
It was lovely seeing you all.
All right, absolutely.
Thanks for having us, Munly.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I look forward to connecting again after this.
All right. Okay.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.